Christian doctrine of the Trinity copied from pagan religions? To answer that, I'll go to AI overview. Now, I'm not a believer in AI, especially when it is not telling the truth. But when AI speaks the truth, then I will quote it. And this is what it says. No, the Christian doctrine of the Trinity is not considered to have been copied from pagan religions, as it is derived from the Bible itself and has a different conceptual basis than pagan trinities. While some pagan religions featured triads of gods, they were typically polytheistic groups of separate deities, whereas the Christian Trinity is the belief in one God who exists as three co-eternal persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Biblical origin. Christian theologians developed the doctrine of the Trinity to explain the relationship between the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as revealed in the Christian scriptures. Distinction from pagan trinities. Pagan trinities, such as those found in ancient Egypt, example, the triad of Osiris, Isis, and Horus, where Horus was the son of Osiris and Isis. The Greeks, they had Zeus and Athena and Apollo. These were separate gods, not one God in three persons, which is monotheism. So we can say that unlike pagan religions, which were often polytheistic, the doctrine of the Trinity is fundamentally a monotheistic one, centered in one God. Historically, early Christian debates over the Trinity did not involve comparisons to pagan trinities. They were debates, but they never compared it to pagan trinities, which suggests that the doctrine was not seen in any way as of pagan origin by those of the early church. Now, Muslims are forced to shout that the doctrine of the Trinity was influenced by pagan beliefs, which they believe led to its formalization in the 4th century. This is a common misconception, and it has been around for centuries, basically, to be honest. So it's nothing new that they say, and they try to say, well, you are polytheist because you believe in three gods, you worship three gods, whereas we worship one God, Allah, and therefore Christianity is polytheism. And they cite the pagan triads that predates Christianity. Now, that idea is not supported by historical evidence or theological analysis. It's not supported by them. So, my Muslim friends, when you are saying that we believe in three gods and you're likening it to for example, the Hindus or the Egyptians, their version of it, it is inaccurate information, and it is just a reflection of your lack of understanding of basic Christian history. A famous theologian, Bruce M. Metzger, he said, the mere presence of trinities in pagan mythology is irrelevant to the origin of the doctrine of the Trinity in Christian theology. And this is very important. It's irrelevant. Let's look for a parallel, for example, at the story of Moses that we find in the Bible. Now, many suggest that the story of Moses was based on the story of Sargon, of Akkad, or Sargon the Great. Because they say, well, both were placed in a river by their mothers, and both were rescued by someone. And because Sargon's account comes first, then Moses probably copied from him. Now, that's carrying a far stretch, because that is actually where the similarities end. If you look at the details of both of these stories from these two accounts, they are very different. Very, very different. In like manner, if you want to look at the flood, for example, there are many ancient cultures that tell about a flood story. It's not the same, it's different to the Bible's account, but there's certain basic things that we find in them. Does that mean that the flood never happened according to the Bible? Or does that mean that God did not inspire Moses to write the account of Noah and the flood? Absolutely not. The history says that when they left after the flood, the Tower of Babel, they had the understanding of the flood, and so they took to various parts of the earth with that culture and that understanding. So it is not strange to find that we have cultures that tell of the flood story. It's not strange. The mere fact that you find triads of gods in other early centuries is meaningless. None of them match the story and the framework of our God's engagement with this world, how he came to save this world. So when you talk about similarities, it is only superficial, and it has to be ignored. You cannot take it seriously. Millard Erickson says, while it is true that various religions have had triads of deities, the concept of the Trinity is unique to Christianity. And this is what I want my Muslim brothers to understand, that the concept of the Trinity is unique to Christianity. So, and I said this before, when Moses wrote the book of Genesis about the creator God, Elohim plural, there was no sin in the world. And thus, there was no one who would have strayed from worshiping the true God to worship idols. And you need to think about that seriously. The only two people who were in the world at that time, before sin, were Adam and Eve. They knew no other God. And God revealed himself as Elohim, as plural. Now, there are many differences in the two paths, Christianity and pagan religions. Christianity and pagan religions go through two different paths. And Islam is an example of one of those pagan religions, where in the belief of pagan gods, we find one of them becoming a man. Where in the belief do we find that one of them became a man, prophesied in the beginning, millennia before, coming through a particular tribe, and whose ancestry we can trace back through that tribe, straight back to our first parents, Adam and Eve, like we find with Jesus in Luke 3. Show me that from Zeus, or Tammuz, or Osiris. You can't, because it's pure mythology. Only in true Christianity you have its doctrine that salvation is by faith through Christ and not of works. Only in Christianity. Get this. No other religion, absolutely no other religion on the planet has this. In Islam, for example, Hinduism, Buddhism, etc. all practice a works-based method to be saved. Performing acts to save yourself, to find your way into heaven. No one died to redeem you. There's no one that you can trust for salvation. That is pagan religion at its best. Practices. Pagan practices would include prayers for the dead, like Muslims pray for Muhammad, believing that the soul of the dead is immortal, that it lives on after the person dies. That is pagan beliefs. That came from Greek mythology. So once again, I'm inviting any one of you on the panel to come forward and have a debate with me, and let us get down to the facts, not just statements, not just words, not just ideas, but facts supported by history and supported by theology. Peace be with you.